you're all familiar, we have a purchasing policy. So if there's smaller capital purchases that are being made, they're getting quotes, bids, they're just going to the committee level. There's other instances where it's going to go to the committee and then it's going to go to the city council. So consistent with Park Board, Public Works Committee. The commission advises the council really on all matters relating to the airport, whether it be equipment, maintenance, long-term planning. So feedback from the airport commission gets incorporated into things like our 5-year capital plan that we're already starting now this year looking at 2025 projects. Our airport personnel, our city employees, they are subject to the employee handbook. So currently we have 1 full-time employee and 2 part-time employees. So they're subject to the employee handbook just like the rest of our city staff. They're also subject to things like our compensation policy. Again, that's applicable for all city departments. That covers performance reviews, how staff receive a cost of living adjustment, if they receive a performance-based component, which has been in place for the last couple of years. So if staff had a very favorable performance review, they may receive actually more than the standard cost of living adjustment. And then the purchasing policy, which I mentioned as well. So that covers all city departments, spells out our process for getting quotes, competitive bids, whether it's a contract for services, whether it's a capital construction project. Want to go to the next one? So the commission itself doesn't set employee compensation. Again, that's part of the compensation policy that is set by the council. And again, it goes into the budgetary role of all of our boards and commissions as well. So the airport commission, airport manager submit a budget just like all of our department heads during the summer months, and our budget ends up getting approved by the council typically in early November. In terms of personnel matters as well, our boards and committees are not involved when it comes to hiring, firing. We've had seasonal staff in recent years with up at the airport. Those jobs are all posted on the city website. That hiring process is led by the city's human resources manager. We go through a competitive application process, and the airport manager is part of those interviews as well. So in the future, if the airport commission sees a need for additional staffing, we certainly want that feedback as when we talk about the budget. But they don't have their own budget per se to just add an employee on their own accord. That obviously that's a budgetary matter. The budget is set by the council. The commission recommends regulations regarding the airport, which are addressed in our ordinances. Fees and charges relating to the airport are incorporated in our fee schedule. That's adopted typically in November, December by the council for the upcoming year. So that covers everything from building permit fees, park shelter fees, dog licenses, etc. And again, that's part of our budget process. So not looking just at how much money is available to expend, but what are those sources of revenue as well. The commission itself would not serve as the direct supervisor of the airport manager. So all their supervisors for the city, or I should say all the department heads for the city, report directly to the city administrator. And that's really the recognition that the board and commission isn't, they're meeting a few times a year. They're not having staff meetings. They're not, typically your council is looking more at big picture policies, overall direction of the city, and not in the day-to-day supervision of staff. And that's also incorporated in the roles and responsibilities that the council has previously adopted. So for whether it be chief of police, the fire chief, public works director, the finance director, human resources, those all report to the city administrator. Part of my role is to oversee the day-to-day operations of the city, and then serve as a liaison and help communicate back to you as the policymakers. The next one. There's a few other sections here under section 2-140 that I wanted to briefly mention. So the commission would submit the annual budget request on or before July 31st. This is already in the ordinance. It's just adding a date in July. Um, Typically, we start meeting with the mayor and council usually in May or early June. And then we send out requests to all of our department heads to start working on a draft budget. And as you know, we usually have budget meetings in August, September, October, and then typically budget adoption in November. So just clarifying when that should be submitted. If there's first a budget request that gets sent in, in November, the day of the council meeting, that isn't helpful because you're starting those that planning months earlier. Go to the next one. Leases should be reviewed by city administration and legal counsel prior to execution. This also, if some of you recall, came from feedback from Baker Tilly a few years ago to make sure that those leases are being executed and that folks are aware of those. Now, a lot of our leases are pretty standard in terms of a hangar, but obviously if there's any unique not just for hangars, but other leases as well, whether it be for leasing equipment or those sorts of things. We want to make sure that city administration, and if there's something that we want our city attorney to opinion on, that he's made aware. So then under section 14-70, this applies to fees relating to the airport. So currently there's a fuel flowage fee. It's actually not in writing anywhere in terms of what that fuel flowage fee is. So in our ordinance, it states that there shall be a fuel flowage fee collected, but there should actually be something in writing between the FBO, so the private fuel provider, and the city of New Richmond that spells out what that fee is, how payment is being collected, that sort of thing. In terms of aircraft parking or automobile parking fees, this was some feedback from the airport manager that those are not collected, have not been collected. Much of this ordinance actually came, my understanding is from the La Crosse Regional Airport back in the early 1990s. So some of these sections really apply more to a larger airport versus what we have here in New Richmond. Now, however, when we look at when these ordinances were first put in place, our airport has continued to grow, and we hope it continues to do so. It's a huge asset to the city and the community, and especially in terms of economic development. We have a lot of great businesses up there. That means they have employees. Those people live in our community. They spend money in our community. And we hope that some of this ultimately just provides some more clarity in terms of roles, responsibilities, authority between the council and the commission itself. Then the last section, all fees would be reviewed every 3 years at a minimum. So again, we have our annual fee schedule, but to make sure that we're being competitive, that's one of the huge drivers for a successful airport is making sure we have affordable fuel for pilots in the area, and that's been a competitive advantage for our airport when we look at some of our competitors, if you will, in the area. So the slides I went through, I think that's the last one, Michelle. Again, this isn't the actual red line language, but really just wanted to go through kind of the high levels of this. Now I understand we have some folks in the audience tonight. There's been a lot of, I think in a smaller community, you certainly have had some rumors, some misinformation, some correct information. I really wanted to take some time to kind of go through this tonight. Again, not line by line, but really to so that folks kind of hear the facts and an explanation of what these revisions are and are not, and maybe some additional background context to that maybe isn't in the actual ordinances, but to understand which of these things have actually already been in place, and a lot of this is really just making sure that our current practices match our ordinance. And in some cases, making sure that, ultimately, the council creates the airport commission. We want to make sure that in terms of having regular meetings and things like that, that it's very clear for myself. I serve as an ex officio of all of our boards and commissions to make sure I understand what your expectations are. It's good for our staff, for the commission members themselves, just to know what their roles and responsibilities are. We've gone through this process in recent years with our public safety committee, with our fire board. It's good to review these things from time to time and make sure there's very clear understanding on when it comes to roles, responsibilities, authority. In this case, I don't think this ordinance had been updated since 2007, and that was fairly minor. A lot of this still really comes back more to the early 90s. We have a great airport. Again, we hope to make it even better. We hope that this helps provide some framework and a little more clarity, again, for staff, for elected officials, and for the commissioners. So hopefully that, again, just kind of high-level overview. But if any of you have questions for me, if you'd like any clarification, again, in your packet you have the red line copy, a clean copy, and I did have an opportunity to meet with a couple of businesses today, one here at City Hall. I was also up at the airport this afternoon. And I think certainly a lot of questions when people first see, all the red lines and things here. It looks like there's a lot. I think it was very helpful to sit down and talk through some of those with those businesses. And give them an opportunity to ask me questions. So again, that was only 2 businesses today. We may have other individuals here who have questions. There might be some things that I covered that maybe address some of those questions, but this time I wanted to see if anyone on the council has questions for me, anything in particular about the draft at all.
Well, I think, does anybody want to ask a question first?
I just want to ask you, Noah, did I understand correctly that you had a meeting with Mike Demling, our airport manager?
I have, yes.
When was that?
We met 2 weeks ago.
And
then some of his red lines he sent me this morning, those are reflected in the draft that's included in the packet. So that was in regards to the fees, again, those fees that we haven't collected, as well as what was under reporting. Currently, our ordinance says that the commission should have an annual report regarding things like airline traffic. He felt that really was not relevant necessarily to our airport here. It also talks about having information on airport expenditures and revenues. We have the ability to do that internally with our finance department. So I did incorporate the feedback that he sent me this morning.
thank you.
Not, I would like people from the audience to be able to come up here and speak, because public comments was going to be before this. Now it's right after, but we have a lot of business people here from the airport. That's why I think there's so many people here. I didn't really realize all these people were going to be here tonight, but if they're here, they have concerns, and I think we should work with our businesses always, because that's what we always preach, that we're business friendly in our community. So we do want to hear from our businesses if they have concerns. I don't know if Mary Kay Rice is the first one, and she's the first one to put her name down. If she wants to come up and speak, state your name, address, and what you're talking about. What's your agenda item? Go up to the microphone, please.
Mayor, time?
3 minutes per person.
I'll admit that most of mine.
Talking to the speaker, please. Yeah, there you go.
Mary Kay Rice, New Richmond, employee of the airport, and most of mine has to do with employee job description that was changed on mine. I think the biggest question of the people in the audience here is why we are taking away the responsibilities of the airport commission, why they are taking that part away and making that change. And if anybody could explain that to us, that would be wonderful.
Noah, you want to take that one, please?
Yeah, so I'm going to write down questions that are asked. As part of our public comment, we don't have a back and forth. It's really just the floor is theirs
Okay.
essentially. But if I can certainly try to address as many of these after the public comment portion.
And after these comments are made, since he's not going to answer them now, I would like this tabled for 2 weeks then. The council table it, so Noah can answer these questions and people get the concerns. Because what we want to do, we want to listen to our businesses out here. They're our bread and butter. And if they have concerns, I don't want to do this in one night like this, because a lot of people didn't get the red line until Friday afternoon. A lot of people didn't see it maybe until today. And then I heard some airport commissioners never got this. I don't know if it was, so a lot of the airport, I don't know if it was sent out to the whole airport commission or not, but it should have been really, because this is affecting them. So if it wasn't sent out to them, that's why I want this tabled until our work session 2 weeks from now. I don't believe that 2 weeks is going to make a difference here. If everybody has the communication, that's the key thing we want, is communication between the city and our businesses. So everybody's on the same page with everything. What I'd like to see is have a general meeting. Noah comes out to the airport and has a meeting, can answer all these questions. Hopefully at the end of the day, we all agree we have the best airport in the area. There's no doubt about that. All we hear is compliments from everybody. We have a really good airport manager. I don't think anybody here doubts that.
Mayor, we're in the public comment section. I think we should let people finish. I think we should let them, we're in public
Okay, that's
comment.
fine, I'm
We should
done.
let them speak.
But Mary Kay, anything else?
Well, since you took up all my time, no, just kidding.
Yeah,
I'm
whoop,
just
you're
kidding.
done.
I just think that most of us are just not understanding why all of a sudden we're getting rid of the commission, who has done a fine job. They work very hard. And it's kind of if things aren't broke, why try to fix something that's working? There's 3 employees and 2 of us are part-time. So that's mine.
Matt Brotzler. Hey, Michelle, can you do that?
While you do that, so my name's Matt Brotzler. I've been on the Airport Commission now as the voluntary citizen member for about 5 or 6 years. And as I raised my hand, I was not aware of this in any way, shape, or form.
Put the microphone a little closer to your mouth.
I'm awfully tall, so I'll try. One of the things that I would like to point out is, you know, the point of this is that the ordinance has been revised, right? But if you look at that, entire sections, entire paragraphs, and entire portions of this have been completely removed and rewritten, which have completely changed the scope of the Airport Commission and the airport manager. And I think the fact that you guys didn't involve the Airport Commission at all in any of this is just appalling. I mean, you want us to be the advisory committee to the council, but you don't even give us the opportunity to even read it before it's being voted on.
Jim Gravita?
I live in Hudson. I have property here on the airport and next to the airport, and I have a business in Osceola, Wisconsin. I build your fire trucks for you, for which I thank you. And I'm especially thank you, Mayor, for that 2-week reprieve right away. That's very helpful for us. But it's really disappointing for me to see what's going on with, I call it a power grab. I'm sorry, there's no other words for it. To give all of the authority that a commission that has done a wonderful job for more than 7 years, Matt's been on it, 6 years, and has kept that airport growing every year. And I'm not talking about just Mike Demling. There's more people behind Mike Demling. We all have spent a lot of money out there. I personally have over $500,000 invested in the airport. I pay approximately $50,000 a year in taxes and lease payments and heat and all the other stuff that I own the FBO building that Mike works out of. And I was one of the people that was never given the opportunity. I heard today on many of my calls that some survey went out. It's amazing that I didn't get that survey. And I don't know if anybody has a bigger investment in the airport than myself. Maybe Al Gipes does, I don't know. I'm not here to trade dollars, but that's how offended I am to think that something like this here is undermining not only the airport commission, but all of us that have made major investments in it. I moved my fleet of aircraft out of Osceola over here to New Richmond because of the kind of airport it is. And to have a single administrator be in charge of that, I mean, that's really what your ruling says now. To have that happen, it's like Matt says, it's appalling. Can't believe it. I don't know what you're trying to fix. There's nothing to fix. There's nothing that runs probably better in the city of New Richmond than the airport. And I could tell you, I've been on the Osceola Airport for 45 years, and that's why I moved here. It's just it's really surprising to me. I can't believe that this can be even happening in a community of this type. I just don't. If you have any questions of me, I'm happy to answer them. Ever since I moved onto the airport here, I kept buying more and more and bigger hangars, and eventually ended up with the FBO hangar. And I'm telling you that if one person is going to be in charge of that airport, I know where there's going to be a for sale sign. I know that. Thank you.
Dale Walker.
Hi, Dale Walker. I'm
from?
actually not a member of short people, I guess.
State your address, please.
What's that?
State your address.
Oh, my address is actually Port Charlotte, Florida. However, I have owned a hangar in New Richmond for over 20 years. When I built it, I was the first one on the north end. And I basically, Mrs. Rice and Mr. Kavina kind of asked the questions I was going to ask. But one question I want to ask is, what, having the city administrator, what does he bring, and what kind of aviation experience and knowledge is he going to add as a sole person in charge besides just an advisor?
This is what will be answered later on at a meeting. Steve Weinzerl.
Steve Weinzerl, New Richmond, Wisconsin. I'm a pilot in New Richmond, and again, I would have begun as the previous gentleman. Have a show of hands of pilots in the audience today. So here we are, and I heard the word misinformation and disinformation spoken earlier. But how about no information? There's a New Richmond newsletter that goes out quite often. Mike does a fine job at telling what's going on at the airport. And yet every tenant on that airport, and they're numerous, has no information about this. No red line, no discussion about someone who's operated that airport and grown it for decades. Someone who has to be out there when there's a half an inch of snow on the airport to clear it, because it can't sit according to FAA guidelines. Someone who studies the guidelines, make sure that the criteria is met for grants and loans to improve that airport. How is a city administrator going to do that? How can that be? And the thanks that that gentleman gets for mowing that grass when it grows, for spreading the, getting the snow off of that, for fixing the runway lights, doing all of those things, for knowing what type of equipment, we dismiss him and tell him, now you're subservient to a city administrator. After decades of work, I think you all ought to be ashamed of yourself. You ought to be thanking him for growing that airport. What about when the Super Bowl happened here? Parking airplanes and figuring out the logistics of that. Bringing any business I'm a consultant. I've had clients fly in to meet, and they all comment. They fly in from Painesville, Ohio. They say, I've never seen an airport that runs like this. And an airport isn't built on parking fees and things like that. There's a very similar situation in Moorhead, Minnesota, where Hector International operates with Delta and everybody else and the Air National Guard there. Well, Moorhead runs a very similar satellite airport without a tower, and they do a fine job, but it's nowhere near what's done here in New Richmond. And there's never going to be an airport of that caliber in Osceola. Hudson doesn't have the capability to do that. You are the key to what's going on. There's a migration out here because the Metropolitan Airports Commission has an iron fist over what's going on in Anoka, for example. People hate it there. And they're coming here because of that. And that's all I have to say.
Greg Anderson.
Greg Anderson, live in New Richmond. My family and I have a number of hangars up at the airport. And, you know, I have to agree with all the comments up until this point. It's just disgusting, the lack of information. I do want to point out, when Noah, as you're giving the brief overview, try to equate it to departments such as water, fire, things like that, that require no private sector investment. And the fact that nobody from the city solicited anybody that has any financial interest out at the airport at all. And some of them don't even know that this is happening because of the lack of information. And then with the dissolving the airport commission and making him an advisory council, I'd echo what Matt said. If he hadn't asked for the red line to be pulled up, we're just glossing over that. Again, it seems very disingenuous that we're trying to hide something from us. Point 8 on your existing section 2-140 says the commission shall cooperate with and receive the cooperation of the Common Council. I don't see any kind of cooperation with the Airport Commission at all. Very disappointing.
Corey Miller.
Corey Miller, I live in Somerset, but own a hangar at the airport and moved up here from Milwaukee. I worked for Harley Davidson as a powertrain engineer to work here at the New Richmond Airport as an engineer. Did for 3 years till EPS left, and then I started my own business and worked at the Anoka County Airport, which I know exactly why everybody's leaving there and other airports in the municipal area to come here. And I also know enough about when something like this happens and nobody finds out about it, it's not an accident. That's very disappointing. I'm several million deep with investors to move my business from Minnesota to here. It's been 7 years of just grueling work to get to the point where I'm at. I just closed on a hangar at New Richmond to open the business 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it's very disconcerting that, you know, all this is shaken up. People wouldn't have been moving here at this record pace if everything wasn't going great. So change for change's sake with no reason. Yeah, I really appreciate your mayor's request to give us 2 weeks to think about this. I really hope, based on what you've heard tonight, you do what you say and say what you do, that you listen to the business owners here and you keep the airport commission. Thank you.
Jeff Moberg.
Good evening, Jeff Moberg, Dresser, Wisconsin, employee of one of the business owners at the airport, and really just here to echo kind of everything that's been said. The lack of stakeholder engagement, there's really no explanation for it. And to echo what Greg had shared, the airport is not like the other departments. There is not private investor out here of the level that you're seeing. And when changes are made without that type of communication, it causes a great level of consternation. And quite honestly, it's just not the right way to function. It's unfair and it's inappropriate. Hopefully you guys can back off, take some time, try to create some stakeholder engagement, and revisit whatever it is you're trying to correct. In terms of misinformation and disinformation, I was, no, victim is the right word, but I spoke with 3 city officials today. 2 of them gave me conflicting reports of what is in this. So it concerns me that the level of information, even at the city, is not as clear as it needs to be. And then how could it be clear for the rest of the stakeholders that are a big part of creating and growing businesses at the airport? Thank you.
Mr. Moberg, before you leave.
Yes, sir.
I don't think it's okay for you to sit there. I know you didn't talk to me, but you say you talked to several city officials. No, excuse me. You need to go ahead and say, who did you talk to? You can't just make an allegation and everybody just, okay, well, we heard this. Who did you talk to and what did they say?
Hey, Mike, you're not my mom and you're not my boss.
You're right about that, Jeff. 3 times over. 3 times over.
Okay, enough.
To explain yourself?
Monty Weeks. Excuse me, Jim Bittner.
I'm Jim Bittner, New Richmond, Wisconsin. I've also owned a hangar over in Anoka County, and the young man that brought that up understand what that's all about. To put this in our hands, you know, to see this just today for the first time, just short of ridiculous. I'm upset over this whole thing. I sold a home to the east of here just to build a new house here and come to this airport because of Mike Demling and the staff that he has. And to get reckless and allow this to go on, I'm opposed to it, as you can see many of us are. This is our livelihood. This is what makes us happy. We've got a kind airport, honest airport, and I don't think it needs fixing in any way, shape, or form. Anyone. Thank you.
Now Monty Weeks.
Hate public speaking. hate public speaking. I'm Monty Weeks. I own Prototype Machine. Richmond. Flying out of there since the early 90s. Mike taught me how to fly. Can you hear me?
Give your address.
I grew up in Richmond, Wisconsin, Cylon, did EMS and rescue here. I now live in Somerset. I own 2 hangars out in Richmond and have business located out there. It was, been in business for 20 years. 18 years ago, one of my main customers approached me to have me move to the airport. And it was the airport commission that approved that move at that time. Because I did aviation, I also do steel mills, all kinds of stuff. I'm not just strictly aviation. We do all kinds of work for anybody we can make profit off of. And we have good employees, good jobs, benefit packages, the works. I found out about this at what, 10:30 this morning, about this meeting. I have no idea what the hell it is, what you guys are trying to do, but I just, from what I hear here, you're gonna take 7 people's opinion and give it to 1 person. As a businessman, that makes me pretty damn uncomfortable. I don't know what else to tell you. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. I don't like public speaking. Yeah, it's I don't understand it. Like I say, I just heard about this, so I haven't read it. I don't know what that one individual's capabilities are, what their viewpoints are. So it makes me nervous. I'm kind of getting old enough to where I can hang it up. So I'd hate to lose a couple of jobs out there because we do good business and we have a lot of good customers in the area and throughout the country. So, thanks.
Robert Rice.
Hi, Robert Rice, airport employee. I work at the FPO too. Just want to say I've worked at the airport for over 20 years in some capacity, and we've worked really hard to build it into what it is. I'm not going to pretend that everything's perfect, but I think we do a really good job. See out here today that we have a lot of support. You know, I guess I would just really hope that what we get from the city is that support and not kind of, you know, I don't want to address any sort of ulterior motives, but it certainly feels like that at some times. So I just want to say that I appreciate all the airport's given me, and we would like to keep it in good meaning and good order. So thank you.
That's it for public comment.
Sir,
You're not on the list.
we had to have you sign in before, so
You got to sign in.
sorry about that. We had to do it before the meeting.
No, it's before the meeting.
We had to do
so
it before the meeting.
These are the rules of the council.
My name's Fran Michaud. White Bear.
Yep. Yeah, please. Question from the council.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion to table this for
There's
until the
already a
next.
motion on the floor
Motion right now.
What?
First and a second to discuss this.
to approve it.
So either the people that made the motion can rescind it and then second it, otherwise you're moving for a vote. But they have to rescind.
Nick?
You can make a motion to table, there has to be a second.
Yep.
And then there has to be a vote. It's a motion to table this particular motion. So if there is a second to Craig's motion, then there would be a vote on the motion to table this particular motion.
Okay.
Craig, you made the motion to,
I made the motion to table this until the work session. 2 weeks.
Correct.
Is that what we're talking about?
Correct.
With more information that I think a lot of people need.
What we're hoping is that these
I need a
peop-
second first, Jim, before we go into discussion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, now further discussion. What I want to see is that Noah goes out to the airport and has a meeting with all these people. Let's get things straightened out, what is and what isn't happening out there. Sometimes there is misinformation and people don't understand what's going on. So let's get that meeting out there. And then we're going to come back in 2 weeks and decide what's going to happen here. But I think the main thing is that people feel they found out about this maybe Friday. The people on the commission didn't even get a notice on this, which they should have, I believe, if you're on a commission and something's going to be changed. So that's all I think.
Mr. Mayor, just a point of order to clarify, a motion to table is not debatable, and it has to be voted on immediately under our.
Okay. So take the roll.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Vries?
No.
Alderman Weinmeier?
no.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert? Alderman Montello?
No.
Okay. Does that motion stay on the table? The first one?
Yes,
Okay.
back to that one.
Any further discussion on that?
Well, I think we had asked Noah to respond to questions that were raised or comments that were made during public comment. I think it would be appropriate to do that now.
Well, Noah said we can't do that. At least I understood that a second ago, that
No, we can do that now. If he's got
Okay.
answers.
Yeah, so for public comment, our rules, we don't kind of engage in back and forth. Really, the floor is theirs. So, their 3 minutes isn't part of my time or speaking. I can address, some of the questions that were raised. In terms of, myself as a city administrator, what expertise or what do I bring to that area? Ultimately, the role of the city administrator isn't to be micromanaging the day-to-day operations of any of our departments. The airport manager is going to know a lot more about aviation than I ever will, just like our chief of police, just like our fire chief. Those are their areas of expertise. It's not that, if this ordinance were approved, it's not that suddenly the city administrator is up at the airport every day or has an office up there or anything like that. Just like all of our department heads could attest to, there may be weeks where I talk to them once a week. It might be every other week. We might have a couple meetings together. Some of it's just more informational updates that I can help relay to the policymakers. And so while I have a broad background when it comes to all city departments, it's certainly not to say that the city administrator is now in charge of the airport or making decisions up there. Ultimately, for all of our department heads, report to me. Ultimately, I report to the council. And so I serve as a liaison, if you will, between, the council serves as, your role as elected officials is to get feedback from your constituents. Ultimately, you hire me for the purpose of overseeing the day-to-day operations of our departments. And I then serve as that connection between yourself and our staff on the ground. In terms of the council itself, the council is not involved when it comes to personnel matters. Well, I'm a contracted employee for my profession. Our council, our boards and commissions, really with the exception of our police and fire commission, are not involved when it comes to day-to-day operations, when it comes to personnel matters. The council creates policies such as the employee handbook. It's my role as a city administrator to implement that and enforce that, just like other policies that you set forth. You determine what the fee schedule is. That's what our staff or our city clerk, that's what we collect, when it comes to various licenses and fees. So it's not to say that, for any of our departments that I'm the most knowledgeable. That's actually a strength to realize that you need to use the talent that you have in the room, and we have a really great staff. It's certainly not that the city administrator is here to overrule decisions being made by department heads. I think that addresses a few of the questions that were asked.
Can I just add one thing?
Yep.
Just as I read through the ordinance, just from a legal perspective and from an organization perspective, the ordinance is intended to bring the operation of the airport in line with the operation of every department in your city. So at the end of the day, the Common Council sets policy for every department, and Noah explained a few things. But at the end of the day, the Common Council is responsible for the operation of the city. You employ Noah to facilitate and administer everything that comes up through those departments. And just to clarify for the crowd, the airport manager that role is not going away. The airport commission role, airport commission recommends policy to the Common Council. The Common Council makes those decisions. Administrator. The airport manager, please allow me to finish my comments, sir. The airport manager is the main administrator, department head of that particular area. And so when taken in total and when the actual language of the proposal is sort of thought through, that's at the end of the day, that's the effort that administration is attempting to accomplish here, is to make sure that that structure, which is in place for every other department, is also in place for. I think Noah said it well. It's not that he's the most knowledgeable in any of those particular subject areas as the department head. That's left to the department head, and in this case, recommendations that come from the commission, but he is charged with being the liaison to the common council so that the common council can then make decisions for the entire good of the city.
I think in terms of, the other point I just want to comment in terms of communication, lack of information, I'm happy to get out and to meet either on site with airport stakeholders, whether they're hangar owner, a tenant, local businesses. I'm happy to have as much outreach as possible. I met today with a couple of businesses, and I think those were good conversations to walk through this, to actually hear some of the background and rationale and have some of that back and forth and opportunities to ask questions. So certainly happy to do that as you see fit. So that's just what I wanted to address.
Well, can I jump in here a little real quick? We're kind of done with public comment for one. So this is kind of up here. I apologize for that, but that's the way it is. I've been the chairman of the Airport Commission for quite a few years now. To be honest with you, this was a surprise to me also, which is fine. But I think most of this that you guys are worried about is not going to come to fruition. There's going to be a commission, okay? There's going to be Mike Demling. There's going to be a thriving airport. It's going to keep expanding. It's a great airport with a great manager in charge of it. That's not going to change. It just isn't going to change. So if you have a business out there, I don't think you should worry about that. The only thing that's really changing here, and the main thing that's really changing here, is what Nick just said. To keep things in line with the way we do things, and every other board and commissioner and every other supervisor does things. That's the only thing that's changing. It's changing from the commission-based to the commission advisory. Still gonna have meetings, gonna be down here instead. Gonna meet 4 times instead of whenever we really need to. Gonna put our minutes online, it's gonna be down here. All that's gonna be changed is the commission is gonna be the commission, and they're gonna be in line with what the board, the council says. Everything else is gonna be the same. So whether you like this or not, I really honestly don't feel like that nobody's trying to get rid of anybody. We need Mike Demling. This is a huge next couple of years for the airport. Huge. We've got a long-range planning committee that's just starting tomorrow. That's integral in the part of the growth and expansion of this airport. It's huge, and we need Mike Demling for that. So I realize that it sprung on you late. I get that, but I don't think you should be as worried as you think you should be worried. There's going to be, it's mostly the same as what we're doing right now.
Craig, we can't have any public comments out there anymore. Pete?
Craig, thank you. I absolutely 100% agree with you. So I really think that think there's some rumors out there that are not true. We're just bringing these under the oversight of the council, and I think what you said was 100% correct.
I want to be 100% sure on this. The job of the airport manager is not going to change. The relationship, the commission is going to still be the same. 7 members, is that correct? And they're still going to work in the same way they have. The meetings are going to be down here. And so the actual change to the day-to-day operations at the airport, what are they, is there going to be anything in day-to-day operations, any
None.
change at all?
None.
No, this really is just relationship of the commission and the council. There's still 7 members. That's not changing. The commission met twice last year. They'd meet at least 4 times this year. Instead of meeting at, up at the airport, their meetings would be here. Again, unless there's again, a certain project or something that makes sense to have it elsewhere. Meeting minutes, again, this is a body of the city. All of our meeting agendas, meeting minutes should be out there, and we want to make sure that our hangar owners, our businesses up there are getting notifications of when those meetings are, and getting copies of the meeting minutes if they're not available. So again, the focus of the ordinance is really on the commission itself, which is created by the council to assist you. And so in terms of, what we're putting on here is really to help give them a good framework and hopefully make sure that our airport continues to be successful.
Any other questions from the council?
I just want to respond to, one of the speakers mentioned a survey. And I think that was something the airport did relative to future plans at the last commission meeting.
Is that the 10-year plan one?
That's what I'm guessing. The city didn't send out a survey.
Oh, the long-range planning one?
Yep, that's for the long
Oh, that
range
was that?
planning. There's a survey.
That had nothing to do with this.
Yep,
And
that's looking for feedback on future improvements to the facilities out there. That'll be that process. I think it was mentioned. I forget who for have a subcommittee meeting tomorrow on that. That process will continue over the next year.
It's going to be a long process, and it's a very valuable piece of information that we're going to have at the end of it that's paid for by, I think, out of Mike's own pocket, no? FAA? Okay, so it's a very valuable piece of a document at the end of this. It's going to be a lot of work, and it's really honestly going to paint a picture for the next 5 to 10 years on what the airport's going to look like and what we want out there and what we want it to look like and how it's going to grow and where it's going to grow. And it's going to be for businesses in the future, big, small, medium, it's going to be a valuable document to have that the FAA has so kindly helped us fund. SEH is conducting that whole thing. I don't think it's done yet, to be honest with you. I'm not 100% sure. It is, okay. So tomorrow, for our initial kickoff to that long-range meeting, we'll probably find that information out.
the other thing I wanted to respond to was, somebody asked the question, what does the city administrator bring to airport administration? Well, I think you can enlarge that question and say, what does the city administrator bring to sewer wastewater treatment plant administration? What does he bring to a municipally owned utility department administration? It's really the same, and we don't have to debate that airports are different than wastewater treatment plants or municipally owned utility departments. We don't have to debate that, okay? That's a given. But the role of the city administrator has never been to run these departments. It's a matter of oversight. And, you know, I appreciate those of you who are here tonight and your passion for that. I think that's kind of, I have a good friend who passed away, who was a pilot over in Africa. That's kind of a common thing about pilots, is passion for what they do. We have zero interest in the airport being any less than the most that it can be. I'm newly on the airport commission. I'm not gonna walk out to Mike Demling and say, boy, Mike, that strobe light gotta be higher in the air. None of that. But every department head we have, and please remember, it's a municipal airport. It's owned by the city of Richmond. And so we have an obligation to every department and the taxpayers to make sure that we have uniform policies. I would encourage any one of you, the first time that you see Noah Wiedenfeld out there telling Mike, hey, you didn't clean the snow fast enough, please let me know. Because I'll hold Noah accountable for that.
I'd
That's
like to kind
not-
of see Noah mowing a little bit.
That's not what this is
That'd be
about.
kinda fun.
Mike's done a really good job. Nobody's saying otherwise. But in terms of having policies that are the same, every department in the city of Richmond, up to tonight, with the exception of the airport, has the same rules. That's all this is about. I appreciate your passion. I appreciate the fact that you're out there. I manage a local business. And that's what makes this community drive. It's a super important component. Nobody, certainly me, wants to see that compromise in any way. But how do we explain to department managers, well, wait a minute, they don't have to do it. This policy really should have been updated years ago. And I think, Mike, you were the one that told Noah today, or previously, that the original airport kind of bylaws or the ordinance came from La Crosse back in the early 90s. I remember back in the late 80s, our airport manager was our building inspector. We had a guy managing the airport. I'd be curious if Wally was here, we could ask him what he knew about airport operations at the time. We have jumped leap years ahead with the management and the development that's been done out there. Nobody wants that to go away. That's a guarantee from me. That's not at all what this is about. We want Mike to be successful because guess what? The airport's successful. And if the airport's successful, that's good for the community. We want that. I got a little worked up here tonight because I struggle with somebody making allegations and not putting a face behind it. That's the end of that, okay? But I love the passion. I love the fact that you're here. If we waited 2 weeks, what's going to change? That Mike doesn't have to report to Noah? That can't change. That has to be fixed. And if you want to pick one thing that's the main thing, that's it. And I tell you, I would invite Mike or Mary Kay or Robert, staff that are out at the airport now, give us a report in 6 months on how your life is different. I'd want to know if it's gotten worse. There's been a lot of talk amongst these folks of developing an industrial park out by the airport. That's not a conversation for tonight. I can't even tell you where I'm at with that. But I think everybody sitting here understands what an asset the Richmond Airport is. That's the hard facts. This actually, as I understand it, I think, Mike, you were provided a copy of this the middle of last week. Yeah, so, got it. I know that you had a meeting with Noah a couple weeks ago. Yep, and you did send him some edits today, which he has included in this report, right? Or the ordinance. So I just want to say that as much as I can give you a guarantee, based on any discussions I've been involved in about this, that's what this is about. That's it. That's all that it is. So, Mike, I want to congratulate you for the work you've done out there.
And I think what we're talking about is the communication part, I guess, really is the key. Because I think Mike's right about all this. The thing is, the communication should come out sooner. To the airport commission, to all the businesses out there. It's meaning communication, because this could have been handled a week or two ago with all these people here, and they wouldn't be here tonight. I think most of us agree the format. I think the format is going to be fine out there. Mike is still going to be the manager out there. We all know he's doing a great job. Nobody's denying that. I don't think anybody in this council is denying Mike is doing a good job. Just the communication maybe to everybody has to be sooner. So when you come to the meeting, people don't say, I first found out about this on a Friday. But I think almost this whole change basically needed. And your fear is that Mike is not going to be there anymore. No, Mike is the manager out there.
That's up to him.
He's
Mayor.
done a great job.
That's up to him.
Well, of course it's up to Mike, but I think I'm saying everybody wants Mike out there because everybody knows he's doing a great job. But, you know, because this is a supervisory thing for the city, and every supervisor has to follow the same format, no matter which department you're in. It's basically the communication part. It has to be sooner to everybody that's involved in this. We won't see this in again. So what now? Any other questions?
I just have another comment. I'm the newest person on the council here, but I've been out a few times visiting with Mike and looking at the things. I was very proud of the airport long before I ever went out there. And you can go anywhere in a big area here that people know about the Richmond Airport. And so it's one of the best assets we have. And that's due to the work that Mike has done over the years. He's been behind doing everything all the time. So I just wanted to make that clear that this, we have a tremendous thing here, but the actual ordinance isn't, and I was very clear about that, is not going to change anything at that location that I certainly can see, and I don't see any change coming at all.
There's a motion on the floor. Do you want to take the roll, please, Michelle?
Yes. Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
Alderman Vries.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert. Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you for coming, and we'll move on to the next item. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
The motion, we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
And I'll say with one remark here, we got a $100 donation to the police department from
You mean the job titles?
Is that in the consent, or is that?
It wasn't under consent.
Sorry, Mary Kiana, what are you referring to?
There's the job title changes for, up on top.
Oh, the job descriptions, that's number D3? Is that what we're looking at?
Oh, updated job descriptions, okay.
What is it?
Oh, D3.
Have you seen
Yeah.
it yet?
Or the
Mary Kay, have
consent
you seen it
agenda.
yet? Have you seen this yet? Okay. I think that, Noah, that's something you probably want to handle with Mary Kay before that comes to the council.
It's
The job description?
Yes.
update?
She's
Those
got
are-
some questions about it, obviously,
Yep,
so.
those are in the consent agenda for
Great.
tonight. We always bring our job descriptions under that. Certainly if there's questions, I'd look more to Sarah or to Mike if there's questions on specific.
Have we approved the consent
functions
agenda
or-
yet?
We have not. We just had I seconded it, but it has not been approved.
Yeah, for discussion, yep.
Yeah, are there any questions? on
Nick,
the
can that
consent?
be pulled out?
Ken?
I'd make a motion, we pull out the job descriptions of the airport maintenance assistant, airport operation coordinator, and airport manager out of consent agenda.
Actually, I'm going to go a step, made a motion?
To pull those three things out.
All right, I actually have a different thought about that, but I think we need to wait, right, until there's either a second or not a second?
So I'm sorry,
you
we're in the middle of one motion and you're making another. So
Does
just
somebody
for
wanna-
a point of,
What motion are we in the middle of?
You
so
wanna
we
amend
had the consent agenda approval in a second.
Okay, we need to, I'm going to.
So can Tom maybe amend his or
Who made the motion?
just a little, Tom did.
Can you amend it to pull those three items out? Consent agenda.
Make a motion to pull those three items out then.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay, and then I just wanted to mention Darlene and Dave Schnitzler donate $100 to the K-9.
Shouldn't we vote?
That's consent, though. That's part of
Oh,
consent.
right.
That would be part
Vote
of
on
the
this
rest of the
item.
consent agenda.
This is part of it,
Okay.
I'm just mentioning
You
what.
to Dave Schnitzler and his wife.
So now there's a motion out there. All in favor, say aye.
Well, we're approving the consent agenda, but
But
pulling
those
these
three things.
out.
Yep.
I just want to ask the question, are we going to pull them out till, for 2 weeks?
Let's pull them out and then figure it out.
Well, yeah, but we need some time.
No, I mean,
Mary
pull
Kay
them
needs
out
some time.
now
Right, no, they're
And then do
pulled.
we put them on the agenda for the rest of this time, or do it at
That's
the
my
work
question,
session?
and I think the concern is that there probably requires a little bit more in-depth conversation. Would you say that this requires a little bit more in-depth conversation? You have some concerns? If we come. Yep. All right, but I think that if we agree that we'll put it on the agenda in 2 weeks at the work session, and we got 2 weeks to work on that.
We pull that out, do we have to vote separate on that then?
No, so, well, the motion does require clarification because typically you would pull items off the consent agenda for specific discussion at this meeting under new business.
Oh.
If you don't want to do that, if you just want to pull those completely and consider them at a later date, that's fine. But that should be the substance of the motion so that the record is clear as to when you want to consider those items that have been pulled.
That's up to Tom.
I make a motion, we take those 3 items off and we discuss them at the work session in 2 weeks.
Now do I have a
Second that.
second?
Not a new motion, that's just a.
Yep,
I'll
I
vote
got
for
it.
the question.
I got you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved.
2 weeks,
Talk to Noah and we'll
talk to
bring it
Noah
back
and
in 2
Sarah if
weeks.
you got questions about it, and then in 2 weeks, we're gonna talk about those.
Discuss it in 2 weeks.
Well,
Noel can contact you, that's fine.
either way.
Noel, can you contact her about the?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And then, that'll be at the work session for discussion then. Okay, continuing business, bids for cool condensing unit replacement at City Hall.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. At the February meeting, staff requested authorization to solicit bids for the replacement of 2 rooftop air conditioning units that are on the east side of the Civic Center. Both of these units are greater than 20 years old. One actually failed last year, and they were included as part of the capital improvement plan in 2024. We did solicit bids. They were due on March 4th. We received 3 bids, one from Anderson Heating, one from Countryside Plumbing and Heating, and one from Aaron, with pricing ranging from $68,000 to $100,000. The low bid was submitted by Anderson Heating. In review of all bids, they met all of the specifications. We've had experience with Anderson and Countryside as well, but based upon the low bid, we are recommending award to Anderson Heating.
I'm going to offer a motion, Mayor, that we award the bid submitted by Anderson Heating for $68,000.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Not, take the roll, please.
Alderman Breeze?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes,
A motion passes.
I'd like to make a quick motion that we have no more Robert's Rules of Order questions tonight.
Not gonna happen.
We got
Oh.
an expert on it, so,
Didn't get a second, don't worry about it.
not on the agenda, I'm sorry.
That's true, too.
Next item, bids, asphalt, hotbox.
So, Mayor and City Council, this item was included in our 2024 capital improvement plan. You previously authorized staff to solicit competitive bids. Those are included in the agenda packet. The initial cost estimate for purposes of our budget was $57,000. The recommendation from staff is a 2024 Falcon 4-ton hotbox. It is available for immediate delivery. The cost of that is $48,167. This is higher than, you can see one of the quotes that was included, which was a used 2022 that came in at $42,000. There'd be about $4,000 additional work needed to match our trailer. And then that also does not come with the warranty. So staff did have an opportunity to demo these hot boxes as well, and felt that the 2024 model, although it is a couple $1,000s more expensive, including the warranty, that was a better fit for the needs of the department. So the recommendation from staff would be to proceed with the 2024 Falcon 4-ton hot box from Falcon Asphalt Equipment in the amount of $48,167.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
The question I have is the 2022, is that a used Hotbox?
It
Or
is.
is that just a
No,
two-year-old?
it's used.
It's a used one.
It is used?
Yep.
It's not just 2 years old, new?
Correct.
There's a comment, Pete, in the email to Rob Weldon that actually talks about that they took it in on trade, and it had a slight oil jacket leak when they took it in. They took the hopper off and they flipped it over and they fixed the spot. But then, and then there's also the issue of, to make that fit our trailer, it would take $3,000 to $4,000, I don't remember the number, to modify our trailer to make it. So you're really talking about a couple $1,000 between a brand new one with a warranty and this used one that doesn't.
Perfect.
Further discussion? If not, please take the roll.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Vries?
Yes.
Passes. Code of conduct.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. At the February work session, we brought forward the draft code of conduct that had come from the Ethics Board as a first reading. Council at the work session did engage in discussion and provided feedback as well as after the work session. We have updated several areas based on that feedback in the packet. So we'll just go kind of briefly through, if we could, Michelle. On page 3. Sorry.
She's not there.
Where'd she go?
Page 3.
On page 3, section I and J were updated. You can see the red lines on the screen. It does include the removal of the perjury language as well as a little bit more broad language referring to just a general law enforcement authority. Then on page 4, we reference that the Wisconsin state statute, the open records, open meetings statute is referenced in addition to all of the other statutes. On page 6, the public and social media communications, the designee of the mayor, chief of police, fire chief, and the city administrator in their absence may be able to make comment. So that part got updated as well. Page 8, clarified the language to outline that newly created positions for the city of New Richmond, elected officials while in their term that they were elected for would not be able to apply for a newly created position during their term, regardless of if they resign or not. So that language got updated. And then page 10 in the referral section, it was updated to reflect that the city clerk or the ethics board, if they feel that an alleged complaint may be criminal in nature, shall refer it to the city administrator to refer it to the proper law enforcement authority.
Mayor, I'm going to offer a motion that we adopt the ethics policy as it has been amended and presented tonight.
Any discussion? Not, take the roll, please.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Vries?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks, Sarah.
New business. Final plat application, Gloverdale.
Good evening. It's not the morning anymore. Mayor and council, the first application I'm presenting this evening is a final plat application for Gloverdale, which was submitted by TEG Land Holdings on behalf of Creative Home for a final plat for the northern portion of the Gloverdale property. The preliminary plat was approved in July of 2023 for 60 single-family lots, and this proposed Phase 1 final plat consists of 47 single-family lots. The rest of the 13 from that preliminary plat will be brought forward at a later time. The Gloverdale property is adjacent to County Road A, south of the Willow River Bluffs and west of Woodland Creek Development. It is consistent with our comprehensive plan and zoning. Our future land use map guides it for low-density residential, and our zoning is Z2 suburban district, so the proposed detached single-family homes are consistent with our future land use map and our zoning. The site has access, if we can pull up the plat, to County Road A directly across from Creekwood Drive. And this one access point is deemed adequate to serve the development. The southbound approach of County Road A will be restriped as a shared left turn through lane and a dedicated right turn lane to be consistent with the northbound approach, which has been approved by the County Highway Commissioner. Additional access locations and roadway improvements along County Road A will be provided at the time of future development of the remaining parcels to the south. Internally, there will be one paved sidewalk which runs throughout the development, and then there will also be a trailhead that's currently marked on there for connectivity to, again, future development to the south. For park dedication, the applicant will be paying park impact fees at the time of building permits in lieu of park dedication. The stormwater, after the preliminary plat was approved, the applicant resubmitted their stormwater plans, and so those were approved and all conditions were met in August of 2023. The preliminary plat was approved with 37 conditions, what they addressed, and so we are now down to 8 standard conditions left, and they include street lighting, street signage, monument design, construction commencement, and the development agreement, again, which are all standard.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to offer a motion that we approve this final plat application with the following, with the 8 conditions that are outlined in the memo.
Second.
Discussion? Not take the roll, please.
Comment on the trail connection?
Yep, that land to the north is primarily a lot of wetland, and so it wasn't feasible to connect it to the north. Eric, do you want to, or sorry?
Yeah,
No.
it's a beautiful area. If we can connect it, whether it be a boardwalk, whatever we can do to try to make that, the better. I mean, it's an amazing view down there, and if we can make that connection to Wilver Bluffs, and if we can continue it further south, it'd be great.
All the way up to the nature
Nature
center.
center.
Well, and there's not a good spot for it. Really cool, really cool. I've been there many times.
Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, take the roll, please.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Freeze?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Passes. Preliminary plat application, Whispering Prairie North.
Night that was at the Plan Commission.
Ron was.
You were there, yeah, and my question is, when it came to Whispering Prairie North, did you wish to comment on that night you were
So preliminary plat application, Whispering Prairie North.
So this application was submitted by GMTZ, again for a preliminary plat for an addition to Whispering Prairie to be known as Whispering Prairie North. The 29-acre parcel is located north of County Road K, and it consists of 90 lots, 20 of which are twin home lots or 10 buildings and 70 single-family lots. This application is consistent with our comprehensive plan. Our future land use map guides it for low-density residential, and consistent with our zoning, which guides it for Z2 suburban district. So the proposed single-family and twin homes are allowed uses. For access, if we could scroll down to the map, there are 3 access points to Prairie Road, which is the road that already runs through Whispering Prairie. 2 are on the southwest side, and 1 is on the northwest side. The middle entrance to Pioneer Trail meets up with a cul-de-sac that's already existing in Whispering Prairie. The 3 access points are deemed adequate to serve the development at this time. There are no park There's no parkland being proposed as a part of this development, and so the applicant will pay park impact fees at the time of building permits. For utilities, just as a note, water pressure and flows are currently meeting our standards, but the pressure and flow will be at the DNR minimum for the northern portion of the development until the new water tower is built in 2025, which will address that concern. And then the other note is that a primary electric extension will be made from the existing facilities are already on Prairie Road, but to accommodate the additional load of this addition, a cost share per unit will be added as a contribution to upgrade to 3-phase. So the DRC and Plan Commission have reviewed the application and recommend approval with 5 conditions as noted.
I have a question. Do we know who GNTZ is?
Yeah, they've done some of the other existing developments out there, based out of River Falls, I think technically. But they've owned the property for some time. This is just another phase out there. So I think they had actually maybe did some ghost platting at some point.
I was just curious. I know there was some Overing development out there, but you're not affiliated with that. Okay, thank you.
I forget what GMTC stands. Someone told me at some point, but
It's
And
SAC,
Amber-
apparently.
Amber, this is just a zoning change, correct?
This is the preliminary plat for Whispering Prairie.
Mr. Mayor,
yeah.
I'm going to offer a motion that we approve the preliminary plat application with those following, with the 5 conditions that are spelled out in the memo.
Second.
Any further discussion? Not, take the roll, please.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Vries?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Passes. Next item, rezoning application Willow River Lakes LLC.
This third application, again brought forward by Willow River Lakes, they have applied to rezone an undeveloped parcel located south of Highway 64. The parcel currently has 2 zoning designations, Z3 Multi-Use Corridor and Z1 Agriculture Preservation. It has 2 zoning designations because in January of 2024, the northern lot line of this parcel was adjusted further north by a CSM, which we didn't have to review because they were not creating a new lot, just adjusting lot boundaries. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property to Z2 Suburban District. The surrounding uses to the north and east are currently agriculture. To the west is Heart Lake, Lakeview Estates, and the North Shore Lots development. And then Mary Park Lake is to the south. The comprehensive plan, the future land use map, guides the site for low-density residential and as a mixed-use corridor. Low-density residential includes traditional neighborhoods, including single-family detached subdivisions and 2-family dwellings. The proposed zoning designation is consistent with the comprehensive plan. For zoning, again, the current zoning is Z1 Ag and Z3 Multi-Use Corridor. Z1, for reference, is considered to be a holding zone until a landowner or developer makes an application for development. The proposed zoning of Z2 allows for single-family homes and townhomes, and for reference, it does not allow for multi-family housing. The proposed zoning designation is consistent with the future land use map. And then finally, availability of public infrastructure. The parcel can be served by municipal water and sewer mains that already run through the southern portion of the property. The property has access to a road off of North Shore Drive and Brady Lane, and electric facilities are also available at that intersection. For the purposes of this rezoning application, it is deemed that adequate public infrastructure is available, and any future enhancements or concerns regarding traffic or roads would be addressed at the time of a separate application for a specific development. So the DRC and Plan Commission recommend approval of the rezoning application with no conditions.
Willow River Lakes. Is that you?
I'll make a motion to
Oh,
approve
good
the-
one. Wait a minute, I have a question. I have a question.
Let me put a motion on the floor first. Make a motion to
Sentence. I'll
approve
try to
to a
remember what I
Z2.
was gonna say, sorry.
Get a second?
Second.
I'll give the second.
it down,
so
Mike.
I can talk.
Okay,
I'm
any
I'm
questions?
actually just curious.
You
the
can always
reason-
talk.
The reason why I asked if it was you, just as somebody was in the audience tonight. So I'm looking at the map and maybe can you bring it back up there? That's got the red box there. So, I don't know what the distance is. That's off of Highway 64. How far is it? Roughly.
Should we go up to the microphone though, because people at home can't hear what your answer is.
I
to
just
this
got a few
question.
questions for you, Ron. It's really no big deal, but
Approximately, it's less than a quarter of a mile.
are you planning on?
Wait. We're just talking about zoning right now. That's what Noah had at our meeting from the Plan Commission. This is strictly about zoning. Nobody's brought a development to this piece of land yet, so this is just a zoning change. It's nothing about how it's going to be developed, because we found that out at the Plan Commission meeting. That's all this is. So we're not talking about streets or anything else like that, because nobody's brought a development to us yet.
Are you
This is
planning on
zoning.
bringing a street in from like North Shore Drive, Johnson Drive? Is that what you're planning on bringing a street in?
Mike, we just, this is strictly zoning.
So I did.
He hasn't brought anything in yet.
So we have applied for a preliminary plat, so you don't want to, I don't want to get you in trouble.
But it
by
hasn't
saying-
been brought to anybody yet.
No. We're doing it this way because you don't have to fight with the DOT.
Sure.
We'll be bringing that up.
Answered my question. Thank you.
Yeah, so the zoning designation ultimately is going to determine like setbacks and things that they need for the preliminary plat. That'll come to Plan Commission and Council in the near future, and then a final plat.
Good.
All for the question, Chief.
Any other
Chief,
questions?
do we need you to?
If not, take the roll, please.
Alderman Kittle,
Yay.
Alderman Breeze,
Yes.
Alderman Weidmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert, Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Motion passes. Ordinance 602, text amendments, subdivision ordinance and zoning ordinance.
So this item was also brought forward in a public hearing section at the Plan Commission meeting last week, and the red line version has been included in your packet. I will just go over all of them briefly. So starting with section 117, our subdivision ordinance, in 117.2 definitions, we added a clarifying sentence to define what a principal front setback is. Section 117.10, we adjusted the wording for permits and plats and surveys to clarify that when they get approved, we do it by a motion and a second. We do not pass a resolution in the city. Section 117.18 and 20, we are removing the requirement that the surveyor puts the current zoning designation on the CSM or plat because that can change throughout time. Section 117.28, which is our street design table, the only real update is to the right-of-way width to match our current practices. And then additionally, the design tables following would no longer match our requirements. So we just opted to remove that table, or the diagram, sorry. Then in section 121 zoning, under 121.15 definitions, we added a definition for a food pantry. We have not received a application for a food pantry, but historically have not had it in our ordinance, so wanted to add it in. The definition we came up with was food pantry, an individual site or building for a public or private nonprofit organization that distributes food and other essential products to households in need to relieve situations of emergency and distress. A food pantry may include a kitchen, community room, warehousing, retail space, and/or garden. We matched the following setback principal front. We matched the definition to the 117 section. 121.36, we added where the food pantry would be allowed via a site plan and a conditional use permit. And then also added additional places where a college, trade school, and outdoor accessory structure are allowed. Then the final item is section 121.31 site plan. Financial guarantee, we changed the guarantee, updated it to be 120% instead of 125%, which is what we've been asking, and so just wanted to make sure it was matching our current practices. The DRC and Plan Commission have both reviewed all of these changes as presented and recommend approval.
Any questions?
Our current food pantry, what's the definition of that one? Like 5 loaves.
We don't have a definition in our ordinance currently.
So it's not forbidden, it's just, it's not defined where it is now.
Right, so if there's an item that isn't specifically spelled out, in some instances, if it, now, in some areas, it's applicable because it may funder like small box retail. There's some other, but we
Yep.
felt that we wanted to have a specific definition just for that use. So currently, there isn't one specifically for it.
Okay.
We thought just a little different than, let's say, a
No, it's
grocery
fine, I was
store
just
or-
curious on,
Yeah.
We have a motion to approve the changes.
I'd make a motion to approve those changes.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? If not, take the roll, please.
Alderman Breeze?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, pole attachment agreement with Mid-Continent Communications.
So Midco has filled out an application seeking to put some of their infrastructure on some of the poles that are owned by Richmond Utilities. Anytime a private utility requests that, we enter into an agreement with them. So we currently have agreements with Excel, Frontier, Cellnet, Northwest Communications, and Baldwin Lightstream. And this really just spells out, again, they're putting their stuff on our utility poles. We want to know what they're putting on there. They do pay in 2024, it'd be $25 per pole per year. It does give both parties an opportunity to opt out, but basically, again, just wanting to have something in writing. This went to the Utility Commission at their last meeting. They recommended approval. That'd be the recommendation for this evening.
I'd make a, go ahead, Pete.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Breeze?
Yes.
Passes. Next item, memo resolution 032402, identifying blighted property, 421 South Green Avenue.
Mayor and council, again, the property at hand that is up for consideration this evening is 421 South Green Avenue. This would be the property that is directly south of the ambulance building, which would be potentially the future site of the library. So the Community Development Authority has previously met in February based upon a report findings that staff prepared that was in your packet this evening. That report walks through findings based upon state statute to empower, or it evaluates if certain findings of the property such as blight occur. And if they do, underneath which parameters do they occur in. And so the blight findings report really is prepared to substantiate those findings in detail. The property at hand, the next step after the initial report is done with the Community Development Authority, a public hearing is posted. And then that public hearing occurred on March 8th. And at that time, the Community Development Authority passed a final resolution that indicated that they are in agreement that the statutory findings of blight do exist, and therefore they are seeking the City Council's authorization to operate in that area. So in your packet this evening is the resolution that the City Council would agree with those findings of blight and then would empower the Community Development Authority, which then gives the CDA the opportunity to work in that area and redevelop the property.
Has that not been done already?
No, it has not been done. There was a blight findings in 2016 so that a community development block grant could be formalized, but a
This is
blight.
different than that?
It's slightly different. We look at it from a different statutory lens. And so we need to evaluate the blight findings report based upon the statutory authority of the Community Development Authority to work in that area. And then we also looked at it from a lens of the tax increment district creation in a blighted area.
A statutory requirement that is necessary to move forward with this specific process. So even though blight findings have been made in the past
Yep.
for the block grant, the statute requires it before you can move forward with the CDA and with the
okay.
TID, that you need very specific findings that match the definition.
And it
So
pertains to the building and everything.
all the work, all the work that was done previously to clear the site.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Further discussion? Roll, please.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Breeze,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, memo 2023 financial report.
Yes. So in your packet is the full financial report for 2023. As you can see, the year-end report is expanded based upon kind of a final evaluation. It flows more similar to how the budget book would read. So it gives a little bit more in-depth information by department and or service segment. So I'm not going to go through all 18 pages of that financial report.
Thank you.
This evening, I'm just going to highlight really some major drivers from a revenue perspective as well as an expenditure perspective. And then I know the next agenda item is actual budget amendments. So some of this might seem a little bit repetitive, but I'll try to keep it as concise as I can. Overall revenues for 2023 were just under $9.6 million, a favorable variance to budget, about 18.4% to budget. Some of the main drivers of the increase revenues for 2023, room taxes collected totaled $175,000, which was a positive variance to budget by 34%. Our state and federal grants that support our share ride taxi service totaled $264,000. When it comes to that share ride taxi, from a budgetary perspective, a large portion is covered, the cost of that is covered from grant. So we only budget the portion that the city is responsible for. So typically you will see on the budget an expenditure line of about $20,000 for the city's cost share of that, and then revenue is typically a full pickup that will bring in the state and federal grants associated with that. So the full $264,000 is a positive variance to that. A portion of that is related to the two taxis that were replaced this year for about $130,000. So typically that line item is about $130,000 in operational expenses. Again, this year it was higher because we replaced the 2016 and the 2017 share ride taxis. And therefore we received more revenue to help offset that capital expense. Building permit revenue was slightly lower, but still on target to budget this year. Total building permit revenue was $219,000. Investment income certainly had a significant positive variance due to favorable market conditions. So we had a $371,000 of a positive variance. And also the tax increment District 8, we've spoken a lot about that over every quarter. $457,000 of that fund balance remaining came to the city as part of the closure of that tax increment district. So again, pretty significant pickup that was not included as part of the budget. Street excavation fees, which are mainly due for work in the right-of-way. So because of those fiber optic installations, this past year, we certainly saw a significant pickup in the budget on that end as well by $123,000. And lastly, insurance recoveries were $133,000 favorable to budget. Those insurance recoveries went to cover expenses associated with Freedom Park irrigation repairs due to a lightning strike that happened in the summer. Sports Center had some roofing repairs and soffit replacement due to some snow damage during 2023. The Civic Center front entrance was damaged during the accident in 2022, but repairs were finally completed in early 2023. So we see that in 2023. And then the Mary Park sign that was struck, that is those funds that we took in for the Mary Park sign were just under $55,000. Those repairs have not occurred yet. Those are carried forward as part of the budget amendments for repairs to occur in 2024. From an expenditure perspective, expenditures were over budget, but yet under total revenue. So we had a surplus that occurred in 2023. Total expenditures were $9.3 million. Budget was $8 million, so we had 15% over of expenditures. A lot of what I spoke about from the increase in revenue is also a direct correlation to some of the increase that we see in expenditures. So when we spoke about the share ride taxi, those capital outlays for the purchase of those taxis were unbudgeted, so we see an expense increase on that side as well. So other cost drivers for expenditures in 2023, we had street equipment repairs. Early on in the first quarter, I should say the repairs happened in the first quarter of 23. The failure happened in the end of 2022, which required the engine replacement of a snowplow that was at a cost of about $40,000. Also, the snow, as everybody will remember, in 2023, we had a lot of snow. This year we have no snow, but due to that heavy snowfall, there was a significant amount of overtime and plowing to remove that snow, which caused a variance on overtime for the streets department. Additionally, as I mentioned earlier too, the Civic Center building repairs, all of those insurance recoveries that we see as a revenue also went out from an expenditure standpoint to make the repairs in those various areas. And then lastly, we had some significant transfers out, mainly due to the conduit financing that we utilized some of those TID 8 funds, as well as surplus from 2023 to cover the 2023 capital projects in the interim until we include those as 24 financing projects. So we had $533,000 in total transfers out that went into our capital projects funds to cover those projects in 23. And then other areas of a couple of unfavorable variances included legal expenses. We had an MRA retirement payment, and then some vehicle maintenance as well on the police side that were slightly unfavorable to budget. Any question on revenues or expenditures where you would like me to maybe drill in deeper? Overall, we ended in a positive surplus of just under $270,000 that will go to unrestricted fund balance.
Does that go to specific departments or just in general?
So in the budget amendments, Mayor Jim will get to where the specific areas had to carry forward, but otherwise the $270,000 is just unrestricted. It goes to general fund. Question. And then just the last slide is our general obligation debt. Our total payments inclusive of principal and interest in 2023 was just over $3.2 million. We did pay down and pay off that debt early that was associated with tax increment District 8. So that had a principal reduction of debt of $970,000. At the end of 2023, our total debt outstanding is just over $17.2 million. I would asterisk that $17.2 million, that is an increase from prior years when you're looking at that, but please remember that we did issue $4.5 million in GO debt to support the electric substation projects. And so that debt will show as a GO outstanding debt, but it is being repaid through the rates of the electric utility. And this item doesn't require any action by the council this evening. It was more of an update. The full financial report will be available underneath the finance department's quarterly updates. And if there's any other questions too, we'd certainly be happy to address those.
A couple of comments. Thanks for putting this all together. This looks very good, very favorable for the city, having some increase in unrestricted funds, because that really does help our bond rating, or the people that just specifically, one of the permits fees collected is really high this year, but we also had a lot of expense for locating permits to have lines in the ditches, so probably offset one over the other in that.
Yes.
Thank you, Ryan.
This information then.
Correct. No action on this one. The next one
Next one, okay.
has action.
Memo Resolution 032403, 2023 amended budget.
Thank you, Mayor. So in this packet is the resolution, or the resolutions associated with the budget amendments. So as part of the annual closure of the books, and then allows us to move forward with our audit, which is scheduled for March 18th through the 22nd. This is really the last action that's associated with the budget 2023. And it allows us to appropriate in revenues to expenditures and to make those final budget amendments. We also look at any funds that are remaining as a surplus and anything that we would need to carry forward into the following year, specifically assigning that for restricted use. And so in your packet, you will have kind of that budgeted list of where there were excess revenues that happened, where there were maybe under revenues, and then excess expenditures or underspent expenditures as well in the budget. And then a list of carry forward, which is earmarking certain funds for particular use in the future. So for example, medical reserve account was a budgeted line item in 2023. You will see in the report that there wasn't an expense that actually occurred on that line item, but we carry forward those funds underneath the budget amendment so that it earmarks those funds for a future use. So that's how we transfer those funds into that liability that we have to offset that when there's a future retirement and then we need to pay those funds out.
I'm going to offer a motion that we have adoption of the amended 2023 budget, carry forward and assign funds.
Can I touch on just one thing?
You have to.
For a second.
You have a first motion. Let's have a second.
I'll second it.
Further discussion?
I appreciate that, but there was just a couple of things.
Yeah, Rand, do you have anything else?
I do. I know everybody likes my finance reports, but.
Oh, just go ahead.
I think just the one thing on here is the fund balance, and Michelle brought it up. So this is a component that's very important. You will see that the red bar, which is our unrestricted cash did increase $416,000 from prior year. So that is a combination of the surplus funds of the $270,000, and then there were some funds that were in a non-spendable format that then became available. And so we get to reclassify those to unrestricted cash. So we also had not just our surplus come over, but we had now actual things on the books that are tangibly cash, and we get to reclassify those too. So really a positive point that I wanted to point out, that our unrestricted cash position has certainly increased and our overall fund balance has increased. So all things pointing in a good direction. I think Pete kind of alluded to that earlier in your comment that, you know, that's very favorable when it comes to our credit rating as well. So
I got a quick question about where are we at with the retirement fund, pre-funding that retirement fund, or is it fully funded now?
No, the plan still is to be by 2028 is where it would be we'd be fully funded.
We're still picking away at it?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
I just have one question for Ann. you know, I understand the percentages of this unrestricted fund balance, and based on the GFOA, government finance, 17%, the city in the past has a policy of we're at 40%. Do you feel like the 25% is enough? Revisit that policy to raise that 25%?
Yeah, and good question, Pete. I think that how our policy reads is that we need to have a minimum of at least 25%. So we never want to drop below the 25%. We haven't set a maximum yet, but when we look at benchmarks and similar sized communities, we definitely, I think, are in the range where we want to be between that 35% to 45% range. Sometimes that can fluctuate though, if there's a certain aspect that the city might be striving to have a little bit of higher unrestricted fund balance for a period of time because of something that is known that might transpire, that would maybe substantiate why you would hold on to a higher percentage for a period of time. Right now, I think that we're in a really good position, and I certainly wouldn't go any lower. So if it's something that you would like me to bring back, maybe a little bit more of a formal policy, I certainly would be happy to do that, to kind of retain that as opposed to us having kind of a minimum of 25%.
If it needs to be changed.
Yep.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Take the roll, please.
Alderman Volkert? Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Breeze?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Mike, I thought sure you'd vote no.
Passes. Server replacements.
The 2024 capital improvement plan identified the replacement of 2 servers, one that is housed in the Civic Center and then the other one for the police department. Both servers are reaching their end of their useful life. And as well, the capacity that they both are at are nearing the maximum capacity. Actually, the police department, we have something in place right now from an external capacity to get us to the point of replacement. However, due to the nature of the server, these are really kind of a unique purchase, and so we utilize E.O. Johnson, who is our IT provider. They have a contract with Dell, and so we requested a quote from them for the installation. We received that back for the Civic Center at $12,185 and the police department at $16,415. The total project would be at $28,600. So this evening, we are recommending moving forward with the quote that we obtained from E.O. Johnson, and for them to begin the installation of those servers.
And that's been budgeted?
Correct.
Make a motion to approve the server replacements.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Within our not having to bid this out?
This was bid through E.O. Johnson.
Perfect. Thank you.
Take the roll, please.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Breeze?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Next item, fourth quarter tourism funding recommendation.
The Tourism Committee met in February and evaluated fourth quarter grant application requests. At that meeting, they had 5 requests for funding.
6.
6, sorry. And that recommendation outlines them at the end. One is to the New Richmond Area Chamber of Commerce for the hometown holidays at $6,781.71. 2 to the City of New Richmond for one for utilities and athletic facilities of $18,061.46. The other one to the City of New Richmond for staff reimbursement for time associated with Tourism Committee is $894.97. A Visit New Richmond logo for $80 and Northwoods Technical College community connections reimbursement for $4,999.11. These are being recommended from the Tourism Committee and then seeking council authorization this evening to expend the $30,817.25.
I'll make a motion that we approve these expenses.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, is it possible that we could know what the request is as part of this report? So for example, the city of Richmond, utilities for athletic facilities. What was the request? I'm assuming that you may have some stuff that gets funded 100%. You may, and you could have something that gets funded 50%. And you have something that doesn't get funded at all, as was the case here.
Tourism Committee has a set of what we're really trying to do is we're trying to get more of these organizations to do marketing, to bring
People to town.
outside the area. It's changing, but someone might come in with a request of 10 items, and we might say 7 of them qualify per our policy. And so
I'm not on the tourism committee and not asking to be. I'm just curious, you know, when you look at each of these, I am curious what the request was. I know it was approved, right? But I would be curious what the request
Well, not all of them were approved.
Mike, those are on the iCompass under the tourism agenda from the prior meeting, so I could start linking that in
Well,
the agenda.
And
can
maybe
include
that's
them with
fine.
the
If
council
I can
packet.
find them, that's really all that matters, so thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Not take the roll, please.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Breeze?
yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Passes. Next item, fire extinguisher training tool.
This item was included as a capital project for the fire department for the 2024 CIP. This is a tool that our firefighters will be able to take out to local schools and businesses to actually offer training for employers, for their employees. And we also hope to do outreach specifically at the middle school and high school. A lot of our outreach is in the fall during the fire prevention week activities where we're seeing the daycare centers and we see kindergarten, first and second grade. We don't have a lot of outreach then with those middle school, high school students. And oftentimes those are kids who are, they're old enough to be home alone. And we think this would be a good value for our community. And then again, for the business community, to actually bring our equipment out and go to their parking lot and offer this for their staff. The initial budget estimate was $15,000. We received 2 quotes. The low quote was from the Lion Fire Extinguisher Trainer, ITS. That was a cost of $12,675. There will be an additional fee just for the shipping cost. But the recommendation from our staff would be to proceed with that. And again, that cost, that $12,675, that's the full total cost. So then that is shared between the city, the townships, and the village that we serve as well. So happy to answer any questions that you have.
That's a nice looking grill.
Right,
Right there, there it is.
I think you'll burn something with that, though.
I think
How
that
does it work after that? Is Josh just take it to, is he trained to use this and then we take it to schools or take it to demonstrations or
Yeah.
who does it?
Yep, so it'd be our staff going out there and doing that. And so we'd have 1 or 2 firefighters going out there. We think even just a good opportunity for just that positive interaction between public safety and community members. And so yeah, if we would promote this if businesses are interested in this, to schedule times with us to come out and offer that.
Restaurants?
Yeah, yep, absolutely, yep.
Your motion to approve fire extinguisher training tool.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
yeah, there's a question about whether this has gone to the Public Safety Committee, and I guess I'd like to defer to the chair of the Public Safety Committee if he feels like it should be referred back to Public Safety, or are you comfortable with?
Yeah, we talked about it at the meeting, we just didn't have the exact. The device was well approved, but it just didn't know the amounts.
Good,
Yep.
that's great.
I think the quotes came in 3 or 4 days after the meeting.
Sure.
So we thought we'd bring it to the group. If you'd like it to go back, I think the next meeting is in April.
Nope,
So
if it's,
either way
if
is
it's been
fine.
discussed there,
Oh, yeah,
that's great.
definitely.
Just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure you weren't being bypassed.
And the fire board is also aware, this list was approved with them in the fall, listing out their projects for this year, so.
Take the roll.
Ready? Alderman Vries?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Passes. Next item, stormwater utility rate study.
This evening, we are seeking request to solicit bids to conduct an updated stormwater utility study. So the stormwater utility was created in 2005. Some of you may recall in 2022, we did go out to RFP to solicit requests to provide a stormwater utility study. At that time, we decided to try to obtain grant financing to cover the cost of that study. We weren't successful in obtaining the grant financing, but we do feel it's very important to move forward with the updated utility rate study. And so this would just be authorizing staff to post an RFP, and then those requests for proposals or those quotes would then come back at a later meeting to council.
I'll make a motion to approve the
Second.
stormwater rate study.
Discussion? Roll, please.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Vries?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Motion passes. Last item is Whispering Hills Disc Golf Shelter.
So at the most recent park board meeting, the park board approved a location for a shelter at the disc golf course. It's about, it'd be 36 feet by 20 feet, and then it's on a concrete slab. There was some research done in terms of the cost for the materials, and then there was a quote obtained for the concrete work. And there was interest to see whether or not city staff could build this in kind, essentially, with our Public Works Department. Typically, this would fall under the requirement for public bidding. However, the council can adopt an ordinance that would allow staff to construct it and not bid it out. We would still have a Class 1 notice in the newspaper. Now, the cost for, just to go back, there's about $25,000 in the remaining and fundraising proceeds that are in the Parkland Trust Fund designated for the disc golf course. The cost for the materials was about $8,500. The cost for the concrete pad was just under $5,000. And so if the council was comfortable with staff building it, that's something that you could vote tonight to do. I wanted to highlight in our memo, again, not to persuade you one way or the other, but just to realize that doesn't mean the shelter is going to be built next week. There are a lot of other projects this time of year with, as we kind of transition from winter to summer. So it is something that our staff would have to kind of work into their work schedule. It would take about 120 hours of staff time. Again, there's some work that you might only need 2 people. There's times where you might have 3 or 4 people out there, but that was the estimate in terms of staff time. If you want, we could also bid it out if you just want to see what those costs are for comparison, and then make your decision to see, here's the low bid from contractors, here's what our staff could do. You could certainly proceed that way too. But again, otherwise we would be bidding this out for public construction.
This is a one-time thing.
It would just be specific for this project.
Just for this, okay.
Yep. The project would need a building permit, just like any other project. The building inspector would have to go out there. The most recent shelter project we did, it's maybe 3 years ago at Hatfield Park.
It got done 3 years ago. We probably bid it out 4 times and didn't get a bid.
Certainly, if it's something the council is comfortable with, if you want to see, well, let's put it out and see where the bids are at, you could certainly proceed that way. If you're not comfortable at all with staff building it, we would just bid it out. So really just wanted to bring it to you here tonight for conversation. It is March, and so it is something if we want to get it done here this spring or summer, we'd like some direction.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to offer a motion that we bid this project out, and then resume this discussion after the bids come back.
I'll second that.
No, go ahead, Jim. No, that's fine. Discussion? Well, I'd like to let you know that the last time this was bid out 3 or 4 years ago, we had 4 bids. The low was 43,000. The high bid was 92,000. This money is here already. We raised these funds for this. So this is actually funds that have been raised already.
Well, you're not, the funds aren't paying for all of it. You're asking for the labor to be donated.
No, actually, we were gonna do it, the group was gonna do it, the association was gonna want to do it themselves. We had some people that are carpenters, and they wanted to build, they were gonna build this, but Rob Weldon came back and said, the Public Works wants to build this. They came back and said that.
Once?
So
I'm sorry.
the money is there.
That was the word I'm struggling with. But in any event, it will not hurt us to get a number.
Yeah, we're in discussion, so I think the longer we put that off, this is just, if this were last year, and we had already spent $90,000 on snow removal, and they were stacked up with work, and stacked up, this would be probably a one-in-a-lifetime thing to do this spring, to get it going this spring and get it done. The longer you put, to me, the longer we put this off, the more you're running into, now the crew has a lot more to do. That's my opinion.
If you put a bid out, what's a reasonable time to put for bid requests? 30 days?
We'd be able to bring this to the April council meeting. We put out for a couple weeks, so we wouldn't have time for the work session, but the regular council meeting, I think, is April 8th. I can double check, but.
And I think the reality is that there are benefits to not having staff do it. That doesn't mean that I won't support staff doing it, but there's benefits to not having staff do it. If you can get an answer in a month's time, roughly, that you know, and so if you're saying to somebody, well, why did you have staff do that? Because this project didn't get done or that project didn't get done. We don't even know the numbers.
We had time this year, I think that's a key.
Yeah, that's why
it's
they
one of
actually
those
said-
odd years that we
Well, the
actually have time to do it.
Yeah, they have the process out of the
That's my
ground a
opinion.
month earlier than normal, and that's why they wanted to start it now, because they can put the concrete pad in. And the person is gonna donate his time for the pad, otherwise that would've been a lot more than 4,900, whatever it was, because he's 4,300, whatever it is. But Public Works wanted to do it because now they can do this right now, and waits until June, well,
We don't know what kind of a cost savings it could be. We're just anticipating that it's gonna be a huge cost savings to get it done now and staff that wants to do it.
right now, with what is proposed, is 30,000 cheaper than the $43,000 that we paid 3 or 4 years ago for a shelter.
If we even get a bid.
I just have a concern about, having, I don't know how many public works people would be up working on buildings. Say, we haven't had to plow snow this year, which is awesome, but I do know they're out our elm trees.
Ash
trees, and I know they've been working on that, which is awesome to see them around doing that. I saw them kind of filling potholes today, so I just think our public works people are busy. I don't know if they've got
They said,
take off to build a building like this.
This is,
we're going by what they told us, Pete. not-
yeah, and this is, they can't do it right now. This is so they can do it in the future, because even in the fall, if they wait until the fall, they'll have
Busy.
more time. That's what we're saying, just giving them approval, because the park board approved it unanimously. And it's just that, to go forward with this. It's not saying it's gonna be done tomorrow. If they're not on any other project right now, they can start to get the slab down, that type of thing. Somebody else is gonna do the slab right away. They're just gonna put the shelter up then. So it's just saying that
I
they
just
can
think it's a
move
huge
forward
money
when they
savings.
have
That's-
time to do it.
More than likely a huge money savings.
Well, I understand the cost outlay would an expense of having our employees build this.
That's their job, that they work on projects in New Richmond.
They're not contractors.
No, they're seldom, they want to do it because several other people that work for the Public Works are carpenters. That's why they want to do it in-house, because they figure they can do it efficiently.
I'm just saying they're not contractors. There's no warranty. Doesn't mean they shouldn't do it.
No,
Not
you're
as
right.
black and white as that, that's all.
Yeah, you're right.
So I'm going to call for the question.
Roll, take the roll.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
No.
Alderman Vries, Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Passes. Next, on communication or miscellaneous.
I just want to pass on, I don't know how many people are aware, but Stan Barr passed away yesterday, longtime athletic director in Richmond. And I just received a bit ago his service information. Celebration of his life will be held on Saturday, March 23rd at First Lutheran Church, 11 a.m. And the arrangements are being handled by Bach and Young, so I guess you can look it up there. Somebody who had an impact on athletics in the school district for a lot
Michelle?
We got ballots today. They're going in the mail tomorrow. So if your absentee request is already on file, your ballot will go out in the mail tomorrow. Otherwise, keep requesting them, and we send them out every single day. Next Tuesday, the 19th, early voting in person begins. The hours are on our website, and tonight the sample ballots will be on the website. We have 6 different ballots for different districts here in the city. There's a lot on it. I really encourage people to take a look at the sample ballot. They're double-sided, and there's 4 different referendum questions. It's not just the school district, so.
The state referendum questions are very, you got to drill into them.
We do have some literature hanging up in our hallway and available on what those questions are and how to read them.
And just to piggyback off Michelle's comments, just as a reminder, we have the candidate forum, which will be hosted here next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. So that'll be the 19th. It's open to the public. This would be for our contested races for the District 6 alderperson and for mayor. And I'm excited to be working with Ryan Subra at the Richmond High School, having his students actually help prepare questions. And then also that night, they'll actually be our timekeepers as well. So kind of a cool partnership there. So open to the public. We will video record it as well. So if people can't make it that night, they can watch it on our YouTube page. So
For what it's worth, no, I hope that whenever there's an election, that would be awesome.
Nothing else? Let's take a short break before we go into closed session.
Can I?
Closed session, then take a short break.
Okay.
I have to run and make it.
I'll make a motion, we go into closed session.
I'll second it.
Take the roll, please.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello, Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Now we'll take a break.
No, I gotcha. I gotcha.
I'll see how she's.